Welcome, everyone, to the House Education Administration Committee. Appreciate you all being here, committee, and our guests. We have a couple of great presentations today from Tennessee Achieves and Tennessee Reconnect, very informative. And so, but we got just two bills we're going to run first. But Madam Clerk, would you start by calling the roll?
Representative Baum, Carringer, Cassida, Sapicki, Clemens, Cochran, Darby, Gillespie, Hakeem, Haston, Lafferty, Love, Parkinson, Reagan, Vice Chairman Hurt, Chairman White.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Any members have a comment or recognition before we start? Yes, sir. Representative Sapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to compliment Representative Parkinson on that impressive hat he's worn today. I'm really impressed by it.
And show it to me later. All right, let's go ahead and anyone else have a recognition? Representative Chairman Sapicki, since you announced, would you lead our opening prayer?
You'll bow with us. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for being able to be here today and represent the people of the great state of Tennessee. Help us be wise in our deliberations and be true in our thoughts. We send a special blessing on those individuals that are protecting us both here and abroad, that allow us to sit here as the most free country in the world, Lord. We ask in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, members, House Bill 2019, number 1 by Chairman Doggett. Is he in the room? There he is right there. We got a motion second. 2019. Any amendment? There's no
Thank you,
amendment.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Again, as we said in the subcommittee, this is an exciting time for the area in which I reside down in Giles County. Last year, Governor Lee and this body moved to create a new institution of higher education in the University of Tennessee system by bringing Martin Methodist College into that system. First one in over 50 years. Today, what this bill does is solidifies the University of Tennessee Southern in code. It also creates a campus advisory board and adds a UT Southern student to the annual rotation cycle for the UT board of Trustees. And with me, Mr. Chairman, if you will indulge me for a moment, I've got the very first Chancellor of the University of Tennessee Southern with us today in the room, Dr. Mark LaBranch, standing back over here. He has done a fantastic job leading through this transition as we've moved. The entire community is extremely excited, and we are all very blessed to have the UT system there with us in Giles County and throughout the region.
Excellent. And Chancellor LaBranch, so great to have you here. I got to know Chancellor a couple years ago when he was president of Martin Methodist, and we got to be friends, and such a wonderful campus. And I'm just really excited about UT Southern, and I'm glad that you are leading that effort. So thank you so very much. Anything we can do to support you, we'll do it. Yes, sir. Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry there. I just got blinded by the comptroller's britches back there. But my question was, what is, did this esteemed university land on a nickname or a mascot? What is that?
We are the Firehawks.
Nice, nice. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Not the Doggets, but the Firehawks.
Not the Doggets, but the Firehawks.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment, question, discussion on House Bill 2019? Question's been called. Any objection? Hearing none. All those in favor of moving 2019 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank
for
you,
bringing that.
Mr. Chairman and committee.
Chancellor, thank you so very much. Come up anytime. Calendar and rules. Item number 2 by Chairman Howe, 1848. A motion and a second. Do you have an amendment? That it,
013144, is that the one you have, sir?
that's the one we have.
Yes.
Got a motion second. It rewrites the bill. Do we want to add that committee to the bill and then discuss it? Okay, without objection, all those in favor of adding House Amendment or the Amendment 13144 onto House Bill 1848 indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We're now back on your bill as properly amended. You may discuss. You may explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Since that amendment makes the bill, I'll just explain the bill. This bill came out of a conundrum that we had in one of my counties in my district when it was discovered that the members of the local county school board was compensated at a whopping rate of $200 a month, while the county commission was compensated at a pretty nice rate of $903 per month. The commission attempted to rectify this because the commission is the funding body. Current law says for them to increase the pay for another elected body, they have to do it outside of the budgeting process. They tried that, but it resulted in a huge blow up in the media, an outcry from a lot of citizens. And their salary was finally raised to a whopping $300 a month. And I might add that, as in most counties, I think it's proper to say that county commissions and the school boards do about the same type of work. They work equally just as hard. And so our local folks, including the county commission, saw this as an inequity. And so they support this bill, which allows the school system to include the school board compensation in its budget when it presents it to the county commission. The county commission will then vote on the budget. They can either vote it up or down. They can communicate to the school board if they want a line item changed. They can't, the commission does not have line item veto, but they have that communication process. And what it also says is that the salary for the school board cannot exceed that of the county commission. And what this would do, members, is keep the county commission out of this untenable position of approving a pay raise for another elected body outside of the budgeting process. And this is supported by my county commission.
Thank you, Chairman Howell. Members, with that explanation, and I agree that they put in a lot of work and they need to be compensated appropriately. So I appreciate you bringing this for them. Any Discussion? Hearing none. Can I call the question? Question's been called. All those in favor of moving House Bill 1848 to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee?
Thank you, Chairman Howe. Okay, member, and item number 3, House Bill 1959 has been rolled 1 week per the sponsor's request. So that wraps up our bills, but we got 2 great presentations that we invited to give us updates on programs that are doing a lot for our state. Ms. DeLalejandro, Chrissy, if you would come on up to the mic and get settled in and push the mic on. And we appreciate you being here. And let us all know that Tennessee Achieves is where Tennessee Promise came from. Is that correct? All right. So you're recognized. We're now out of session.
Well, thanks for the little.
Technology is tough.
About myself right now.
There you go.
Chairman White, you're turning me off before I've even started.
I didn't touch the buttons.
Well, thanks so much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We're thrilled to be here to talk to you about some work that we've been doing for the last few months, serving Tennessee Promise students. So thanks to Representative Sapicki, who championed a pilot, a 3-year pilot, we were able to serve Tennessee Promise students, our most economically disadvantaged Tennessee Promise students, in a new way. I always say it's a deep dive into what is actually preventing students from earning a post-secondary credential. And we call those completion grants. Sometimes in higher education, they're referred to as emergency grants, and I don't like the chaos around that word. So we call them completion grants. And a completion grant essentially is funds outside of tuition and fees that are currently being covered by the Tennessee Promise that would allow a student to maybe work less or maybe address food insecurity or housing insecurity. You will see here that we implemented Representative Sapicki's vision within 2 months. So $250,000, we were allocated $217,000 of those dollars. And within 2 months, students were being served by those funds. We have created a chart that you can see here. An overwhelming majority of the funds really went to 3 big buckets of work. One, addressing tech challenges that our students face. What we learned is with the hybrid or completely virtual schedules our students were faced during COVID to tackle, many of them were actually utilizing their cell phones to watch instruction, to take care of their classwork, which seems like a nightmare to this 42-year-old. So a lot of tech being addressed. Also, gas. So if you live in many of the communities that you serve, I think about Obion County, for example, one of our rural communities, you can find yourself in a post-secondary desert where your post-secondary institution is far from your home. And so that gas to and from a community college or technical college every day will prevent you from retaining and completing. So gas, a big piece of this, and also food insecurity. So again, these are students who are reporting a household income of $30,000 or less. Those are the students that are currently being served by this. 85 counties were represented in the completion grant push over the 2 months. We distributed almost 1,200 completion grants to 668 students. You can see there the overwhelming majority landing with community college students. That's because the overwhelming majority of our students at Tennessee Achieves are currently enrolled at a community college. Graham Thomas, who works with Tennessee Achieves, met with Representative Sapicki, who really wanted to know how the students were doing. So in full disclosure, this is self-reported. So all students, which I'll talk about in a bit, must work with a Tennessee Achieves coach, a full-time, proactive, near-peer coach that is walking this journey alongside students, building relationships, and making sure that student is earning a credential and entering the workforce. So students reported back that 85% of them are returning in the spring. This far outpaces what we see with our typical low-income students. If you look at the state average, it's 49%. So I'm going to pause and say that again, 49% to 85% with the students currently being served. We've also broken it down by demographic: males not asking for funds as much as females. I will say we're proactively pushing this to our students, saying, let us help you in this space. They're not waiting for the students to come to us. You can also see the representation, the number of students that fall into each category. So the backbone of the work is our completion coaches. Again, I talked about the fact that this work is all based around scaffolding or supports for students. This is not a handout of free dollars. The student must work alongside their coach in order to access the funds. That is the magic, the marriage of the completion grant with the coach that is working every month with the student. You can see currently, because of some funds from both private funds as well as a public-private partnership, some funds we have over at THEC, we have about 4,500 students currently under our coaching umbrella. It's about 14% of students under the Tennessee Promise umbrella being served by our coaches, for a total of 13 coaches under this particular model. You can also see we've been running a very successful pilot program called Knox Promise, thanks to the Haslam Family Foundation, as well as in partnership with SCORE. Knox Promise combines these two best practices. We have every student in Knox County who's participating with Tennessee Promise receives a dedicated coach. So the difference is only low income statewide versus every student, regardless of socioeconomic background. You can also see here, these students have access to completion grant funding. And I'm about to show you what I think is a really dramatic representation of this work, what this work can do. So college going rate, many of you know this, I'm sure all of you know this, saw a dramatic, almost gut-wrenching decrease with the onset of COVID, a 5 percentage point drop to pre-promise times in terms of the number of students that were enrolling in high school directly following, enrolling in college directly following high school. What you see here is in Knox County, we actually increased by 2 percentage points the number of students. And I can tell you, we've ran the data. The overwhelming majority of those students are landing at Pellissippi State Community College under the Tennessee Promise umbrella. So Knox Promise, while I will not talk about causality here, but I will say it did bolster these students in a very different way than we were able to other students in the other 89 counties that we serve across the state. Looking at first-year retention, so that's a big piece of this. I wish I had graduation data for you. We've only been operating the Knox Promise for enough time to really look at that first-year retention. You can see here, if I walk you through this timeline, an economically disadvantaged student under the Tennessee Promise umbrella is retaining at 33%. Student who is economically disadvantaged and receiving a coach, that jumps to 66%. So we're doubling the retention, jumping to 70% for students at any income. And then you can see there that 78% for students under the Knox Promise umbrella. Again, Knox Promise receiving completion coaching and those completion grants. So a huge difference maker. And again, for me, that magic of providing students with someone who can walk the journey with them, but also with those funds to eliminate many of the barriers that our students face. We do currently have some dollars for expansion in the budget proposal. I wanted to just make you aware that we're working really hard to try to bring this to every economically disadvantaged student across the state. We're also trying to ensure that the funds are not limited to 2 months out of the academic year, that we can actually expand throughout the academic year, so that if we're helping a student in September when they begin their post-secondary journey, we're also able to help that student on the other side of their second semester and making sure they're following through with retention and graduation. We will serve, if this is passed, it's a 5-year pilot currently at $14.5 million. We will be able to serve 18,000 students annually at $2.9 million. with 10 additional coaches and $1.9 million additional dollars in those completion grants. So the completion grants, I will tell you, my team of 30, it is a significant lift to get the completion grants right, because it's not just, here you go, here's your free money. We really are making sure students are enrolled full time, they're working with their coach, that we have the proper documentation. Should, for example, we are paying for rent for a student to address housing insecurity, that we have all that documentation in place. We're also, I think, really important to note, tracking programs both at the Boyd Center at the University of Tennessee with Dr. Bill Fox, but also we're tracking it internally, and we'll be happy to come back to you annually or at any point that you want to update you on our progress. With COVID, many of our students went to work full time, and that's where I think much of the drain, that 5 percentage point drain, came from. And this allows students to work a bit less and also pursue post-secondary and earn a credential and be a viable force in our workforce across Tennessee. I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate that. Let's go to Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chrissy, thank you for being here. Love what you're doing. I had the opportunity this summer to come see some of your students in action at Southwest Community College, and wanted to follow up on that. How is that program doing with kind of COVID where it is now? Do you all plan on expanding it now? And then I got a follow-up question after you answer that.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, Representative. Yeah, so one of our favorite programs is our Summer Institute program that we operate at Southwest. It's actually ran free from Tennessee Achieves. The only cost is actually paying the tuition for students. Summer Institute is a 6-week program designed to address remediation within the urban core of Memphis. And the results are like outstanding. So 83% of the students identify as economically disadvantaged. 100% of the students identify as non-white. And last summer, 100% of the students eliminated remediation and began with 9 credit hours. So students that were behind actually began college ahead of their peers. It really works. That deep dive over the summer is truly incredible. We also run a 3-week summer bridge program that happens at all 13 community colleges across the state. It has an 89% success rate with students eliminating remediation and dramatically increasing their test scores. Unfortunately, those funds have been plucked out of the budget proposal. So we are scrambling to try to figure out how to bring this best practice back in the summer, because quite frankly, if there was ever a summer that we needed it, it's now.
Follow up.
Well, I'm just going to follow up with what you just said, that I would love to work with you all on that to find a solution. And I'm sure, I don't want to speak for the entire committee, but I'm sure there are multiple people up here that would also see that, because the results do speak for themselves. And with all the challenges we have going on right now in West Tennessee, and with the exciting news of the Blue Oval City coming, it is a best practice, and we need to continuing that as much as we can. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're ready.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Chrissy, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I really appreciate the results that's being delivered through this work, through this ministry that you all are providing. The Haslam investment. Do we know? Of course we do. What level of investment that was, and because I'm looking at how do we duplicate that same investment in Shelby County with some of our philanthropists in Shelby County to ensure that everyone gets that coach, and so we can bump those numbers up too. Can you tell me about that?
I absolutely can. Thank you for asking. Mr. and Mrs. Haslam invested $6.6 million in a 2-year pilot, which we were able to extend over 6 years. We are in our 4th. We will be in our 4th cohort this year. It's an easy lift. It's a model we built in-house. For us, it's just about ensuring, again, sort of that magic of completion grants and a dedicated coach that wakes up every day thinking about a certain group of students comes together in a meaningful way. So we care deeply about students at Tennessee Achieves, and we're happy to bring that program to Shelby County.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Christie. We appreciate it. Anyone else have questions? It sounds like, the coach is the vital key in all this. You're talking about 66% in our economically challenged students, but we still only up to 66%. What are the reasons that we even lose that at that point in time with the coach and all the other things?
So much of what happens with students is life. I mean, what we hear from students is that they are helping pay their parents' mortgage, that they're babysitting their younger siblings. They're doing very adult things that is tugging them away from the post-secondary pipeline. So I think life is one big bucket. I also think another big bucket is many of them come so academically behind that they find themselves sort of scratching, if you will, Chairman, to catch up and just really give up. And I think that probably represents about 10% of our students. And the other is, I need to work full time, or I need to take care of sibling, or it's life. And so, it's our job to try to proactively think through those barriers. That's why the coach is so important. They get to know the students and they're proactively reaching out, not waiting on the student to hit a roadblock and come to them, but proactively working with the student to say, okay, this is how we navigate this situation. Oh, by the way, did you know about the resource? So we have a resource guide in all 90 of our counties that we've put together so that we can say, okay, student, we can give you this lifeline of completion grant, but we can also provide you with other organizations in your community that can really help you get on your feet.
Thank you. Members, anyone else? Okay, well, thank you so much. And as we go through the year, anything we can do to help support the program, and I'm glad that we're in the budget this time and everything, so that is fantastic. Need to keep it there.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Let's go ahead and bring up the Office of Research and Educational Accountability under the Comptroller's Office, OREA. They'll give us an update on Tennessee Reconnect, which is another vital part, as everyone knows, getting our adults back into college. Once you get started, Mr. Comptroller, so you're all decked out for UT Day. That's
Thank you very much. I wore these UT pants in today and then found out it was UT Day on the Hill. That's a great coincidence.
yeah.
It is a great pleasure to be here today, Mr. Chairman and members. Thank you very much. We're here today to talk to you about the Tennessee Reconnect Grant Program, and a review of that program is actually required by statute. And I'm delighted that we have a great team here to provide this presentation for you. The Comptroller's Office, our office mission is to make government work better. And I think you will see that this presentation and the information contained herein will allow you to do that. Now, members, I hope some of you received a packet delivered, or all of you should have received a packet delivered to your office. Some of you might have it with you. You received an email about this. The report is long. There's a summary, but you, particularly as a member of this committee, I know are vitally interested in it. So please, if you don't have that with you, be sure and look for it. The evaluation presentation you're about to receive does come from our Office of Research and Education Accountability. Russell Moore is our director of that division. But today we have three folks here from OREA, Lauren Spires, Jamie Tebow, and Anna Johnson, who are going to give this presentation to you. So I'm going to get out of the way and ask you to welcome them. I think you'll be impressed by what you hear and see. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just whoever wants to begin, let's make sure the mic's on. And for our AV audience, just state your name and your position.
Okay, I think I got it on. All right.
Sounds like.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Lauren Spires. I'm with the Comptroller's Office. We're pleased to share with you the results of our evaluation of the Tennessee Reconnect Grant, which provides free tuition to adults who don't yet have a college degree. So first things first, why did we conduct this evaluation? As the comptroller mentioned, state law requires OREA to study and evaluate the Tennessee Reconnect Grant on a recurring basis. This is our first evaluation of Reconnect, and it includes data from the first 2 years of the program. I'm now going to share a brief overview of Tennessee Reconnect. The Tennessee Reconnect Grant is available to adults in Tennessee who have not yet earned an associate or a bachelor's degree. And we estimate that there are about 2.4 million Tennesseans who are eligible.
Wow.
So what exactly is provided? Participants can pursue a certificate or an associate degree free of tuition and mandatory fees. The Reconnect Grant does not cover the cost of textbooks, special course fees, or supplies. Students also have the option to work with a state-funded navigator who provides one-on-one guidance before and during college enrollment. Additionally, Reconnect students are required to enroll in at least 6 credit hours each semester, so that's about 2 classes, and maintain a 2.0 GPA. The program is just over 3 years old. Students began enrolling using the Reconnect Grant in the fall of 2018. Students can use the grant at one of Tennessee's 13 community colleges. There are some eligible public and private universities, but most students go to a community college. And most importantly, why? Tennessee Reconnect was created as part of former Governor Bill Haslam's Drive to 55 initiative, which is focused on meeting workforce demand. So now, let's talk about how this program is funded. Like most other higher education scholarships in Tennessee, such as the Hope Scholarship, Tennessee Reconnect grants are funded by the lottery. Also, similar to Tennessee Promise, the Reconnect grant is awarded on a last dollar basis. That means that students file a FAFSA, which determines their eligibility for other grants and gift aids, such as the federal Pell Grant or the Tennessee Student Assistance Award. Money from those programs is applied to the student's tuition and mandatory fees first, and then Reconnect will cover the difference, if any. Because of this, some Reconnect students may receive little to no money from the Reconnect grant, while other students will have all of their tuition and fees covered by Reconnect. At the end of the day, Reconnect students go to college without having to pay for tuition or mandatory fees. It's just a matter of who or what is covering the bill. However, as I mentioned before, Reconnect students are still responsible to pay for their books, non-mandatory fees, and supplies. Last year, there was $482 million in lottery proceeds available for lottery-funded scholarships. The pie chart on the left shows how much was spent on each of these scholarships. Reconnect is shown in yellow and cost about $29 million. And the largest expense was on Hope Scholarships, represented by the dark blue that takes up about 75% of the chart. And the Hope Scholarship cost about $298 million. And after all of the lottery-funded scholarships were awarded, there was $74 million remaining.
Anna Johnson with the Comptroller's Office. So before we tell you what we found, I'm briefly going to explain how we conducted our research. Our evaluation of Reconnect required data collection from multiple sources. We conducted interviews with community colleges, navigators, THEC, and TBR. We then followed up with a detailed survey and received responses from about 250 community college administrators. Their insight is valuable as they work with Reconnect students on a daily basis. We then analyzed complex data from THEC and the census to measure student performance. Now we'd like to present you with several conclusions from our evaluation. Between fall 2018 and fall 2020, about 90,000 people applied to become a Reconnect student at one of the state's 13 community colleges. By fall 2020, about 30,000 of these, 35% of applicants, had become Reconnect students. The remaining 65% of applicants did not become Reconnect students. The average student who ultimately enrolled was around 32 years old, female, had dependents, and planned to work full-time while enrolled. After analyzing the data, we first found a decline with the number of students participating. Across the first 3 cohorts, we are seeing fewer students apply for the program and becoming Reconnect students. We attribute these declines to a decrease in statewide marketing and speculate that the first cohort captured the majority of interest in the eligible population of adult students. Additionally, COVID-19 likely impacted cohort 3, which began in fall 2020. Second, about 1 in 4 students lost Reconnect eligibility, meaning they could no longer participate in the Reconnect program. Most students, about half, lost eligibility due to not maintaining enrollment in the minimum required 6 credit hours. Community college administrators suggested that students often lose eligibility due to work and family responsibilities, which adult students are more likely to experience than your traditional 18-year-old student. We also found that while Reconnect removes some barriers by providing grant funding, students continue to have financial barriers to success. 70% of Reconnect students indicated that finances are a challenge. In addition to paying the bills and supporting their families, Reconnect students pay an average of $400 per semester for textbooks, supplies, and special course fees that are not covered by the Reconnect grant. Now, looking at student completion, Reconnect students were more likely to earn an associate degree than similar students. This means that getting more students into the Reconnect program and helping them remain enrolled will increase Tennessee's attainment rate. We identified 2 areas for improvement, however. Black and Hispanic students earn degrees at lower rates compared to other Reconnect students. Additionally, Reconnect students with 30 or more credit hours, which means they could be halfway to an associate degree or more, had lower degree attainment than similar students. These populations can be targeted to improve completion. We also completed a more detailed analysis on the type of degrees that Reconnect students receive. Compared to their peers, Reconnect students earn more workforce-ready degrees. These degrees, such as medical lab technology and cyber defense, are designed for students planning to enter the job market immediately upon graduation. Reconnect students also earn more high-need degrees, such as your STEM, computer science, health, and agriculture degrees. This is especially positive considering the state's emphasis on workforce readiness.
So, as I previously mentioned, the Tennessee Reconnect program was created as part of the state's Drive to 55 initiative, which aims to have 55% of Tennesseans with a post-secondary credential by the year 2025, with the ultimate goal of meeting workforce demand. The initiative began in 2013, and it includes a number of programs, including Tennessee Reconnect and Tennessee Promise. The gray line on this chart shows the attainment rate necessary to reach 55% by the year 2025. The red line shows Tennessee's actual attainment rate from 2013 to where we are now. As you can see, we are right on track to meet the Drive to 55. We're currently about 0.5 percentage point above where we need to be. However, declining participation in programs like Reconnect, as Anna mentioned, as well as declining college enrollment that we're experiencing in the post-COVID era, it's going to impact our progress toward the Drive to 55. In future years, it's quite likely that we will not remain on track to meet the Drive to 55 unless more students enroll in college, stay enrolled, and graduate with credentials. So with that in mind, we developed a range of policy options with the goal of increasing Reconnect program participation. This is because we know that students who participate in Reconnect are more likely to earn credentials. These policy options aim to ultimately increase degrees earned, which will help keep Tennessee on track to meet the Drive to 55. Changes to the program that increase the number of students who participate would likely result in increased expenditures, but as I mentioned earlier, there was $74 million in remaining lottery funds last year. And we structured our policy options starting with approaches that would most immediately increase graduates, ranging down to options that would increase the number of people who apply for the grant.
Jamie Tebow with the Comptroller's Office. I'll start by walking us through some options that will increase the number of graduates. So first, we suggest that community colleges target students who are over halfway to earning an associate degree. And this is because our analysis found that Reconnect students who had over 30 credit hours, or in other words, they were more than halfway toward earning their associate degree, were less likely to earn a degree compared to similar students who were not part of the program. And the targeted supports that we mention here could include things like focused one-on-one advising, text messages, or emails. Next, we suggest an increased use of prior learning assessments, or PLAs for short. PLAs allow students to be awarded college credit for work or life experience. This sounds like a great opportunity considering most students who are entering the Reconnect program already have work experience. However, we learned during our interviews with community colleges that PLAs are not widely used because the process is time-consuming for both the student and the college. So we suggest that TBR and THEC work together to promote and improve the use of these PLAs. So now I can speak to options that keep students enrolled in the program and on track to graduate. So Reconnect students are required to fill out an application which asks about their perceived challenges to success, work plans, and preferences for class time and method. Community colleges may use this information to tailor campus services and course offerings to meet their students' needs, but the majority of administrators we surveyed did not know about this. We believe that if administrators use this information to identify challenges and remove student barriers, more students would remain enrolled and on track to graduate. Second, program eligibility requirements could be adjusted. We found that 1 in 4 students lost eligibility, with most students, about half, losing eligibility for not remaining enrolled at least part-time. Community college administrators suggested that this was due to family and work responsibilities. Adult students may encounter more barriers than traditional students and may benefit from greater flexibility. For instance, students could be granted a grace semester where they can leave the program and return. Currently, if a student takes a semester off, they are no longer eligible for the Reconnect grant. Under program rules, Reconnect students are required to enroll at least part-time, which means they must enroll in at least 2 courses per semester. To increase student persistence, community colleges should allow flexible scheduling and expand course offerings. Some community colleges do offer courses in many terms, during which courses are offered at an accelerated pace for a shorter length of time than the typical 15-week semester. With this format, students can take fewer classes at a time while earning the same amount of credits in a semester. This format also gives students, many of whom have work or family responsibilities, greater schedule flexibility. Students who struggle academically may benefit from taking 1 course at a time instead of 2 courses or more. Under program requirements, Reconnect students must maintain a 2.0 GPA. So next we have some options to increase the number of enrollees. And the first option is a consideration for both THEC and TBR. We suggest taking a deeper look into why some applicants don't enroll in the program. About 2/3 of applicants did not enroll in Reconnect during its first 3 years. We can use existing data to see why some students were deemed ineligible for the grant, but for most students, we don't know why they didn't enroll. If THEC or TBR collected data on this, they could potentially remove some of the barriers to enrollment. The second option is for the General Assembly to expand the grant to cover textbooks, supplies, and/or special course fees. And this could be done for all students or for certain subgroups. So for example, students who are low income or students who are enrolled in high need programs. One recurring theme that we heard from administrators is that Reconnect students still view finances as a challenge, and students are often surprised to learn that Reconnect does not cover all of their college expenses. As you can see from the table, additional expenses differ quite a bit by program, with some nursing students paying more than $1,000 every semester. And then the third option is for community colleges to be more transparent when it comes to program costs, as well as the different types of financial aid that are available to students. So as I mentioned, we often heard that students were surprised to find that Reconnect does not cover all of their college expenses, and some community colleges don't mention this explicitly on their websites. The screenshot here is an example from Dyersburg State's website, because I think they've done an excellent job of making students aware of these expenses. So as you can see here, They clearly lay out what's covered and what's not. But again, not every institution does this. So we're just suggesting more efforts to promote transparency, and that way students won't be caught off guard by an outstanding balance. So moving on to options that will increase the number of applicants, our first suggestion is for THEC and TBR to put more resources toward program promotion and recruitment. The state launched a marketing campaign before the program began in 2018, but since then, the number of new applicants has decreased. 33 administrators across 12 community colleges stated that increased marketing and outreach efforts would increase enrollment. And then second, we suggest that THEC and TBR simplify the Reconnect application process. So right now, an individual must complete the FAFSA, a Reconnect application, an admission application for each institution they're interested in attending, and a navigator intake form. And we heard during our interviews that these forms require a lot of the same information from the student, so that can feel quite redundant and confusing. So for example, THEC could combine the navigator intake form and the Reconnect application. TBR could also simplify the process by adopting a common application for all of its 13 community colleges. Here you can see a breakdown of all the policy options that we've presented to you, and you can find much more detail about each of these options in our report. And earlier today, you should have received both a one-page snapshot and an executive summary of the report, but the full version can be accessed on OREA's website. Thank you very much for giving us the time to share with you the results of our evaluation of the Tennessee Reconnect Grant, and we are happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Well, thank you very much. It's very informative. It sounds like we got some major tweaking to do. It seems like we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot in a few areas. Have y'all presented this to TBR, THEC, this report, or is it?
Yes, yeah, we shared the final report with the THEC and TBR, and we'll also share it back with the community colleges because quite a few of our policy options can be implemented directly at the community colleges.
Let me ask a question. Chairman Sapicki, the bill that you had last year, did that apply to Reconnect, the one that you did not? Okay, the Life Gets in the Way bill? Okay. Okay. I think that was Tennessee Promise dollars, was it not? You're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to carry that bill, I'll be happy to sign on with it for you.
I think we need to. But that was for Tennessee Promise. Yeah, okay. Representative Clemens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for the presentation. It's great, and I'm glad so many people are benefiting from this program. And we obviously, I think, to echo the chairman's sentiments, we need to make some tweaks. One of the things that jumped out at me immediately was the average Reconnect student being a 32-year-old female who cares for dependents. And so then that immediately, I started thinking about, well, are we requiring too much? And those 6 hours or 2 courses every semester seemed like a pretty obvious tweak. My question is, did y'all discover any correlation or did you get any feedback from administrators that shows if we decreased that requirement, that tends to then result in dropouts or discontinuation of studies if someone's only taken 1 class per semester? Is there any correlation there that we should watch out for?
So when you think about a Reconnect student can enter the program with no previous college credit, or they could enter the program with 50 credit hours, which means they just lack like 3 classes to complete a credential. In fact, most students enter the program with previously earned credit hours. We didn't hear anything that, no, to answer your question, no, we don't have any kind of evidence that would speak to reducing that, leading to more dropouts. I think it really just depends on the student and how close they are to completing a credential. You know, if you've got somebody that just lacks a couple of classes, then they could finish that in a year and a half if they just take 1 per semester.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we don't tweak something here that's going to have a unintended effect down the road. And when was the last time we tweaked those requirements? I mean, have they been touched in a while?
So the program was created in statute in 2017. I don't think that it's been amended since then.
Okay. Yeah, I remember passing that. I'd forgotten if we had touched up on it at all. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And this may be what Representative Clemens, I missed the first part of his question, but the part where if you drop out a semester, that you lose your Tennessee Reconnect, that sounds like, if we didn't do that, what's the reasoning for that? I mean,
Sorry, so that is in state law. So that's something that, it's not in the program rule. It's written into statute. And I think that it's just an incentive to keep students enrolled, the fear being that if they take a semester off, they might not come back. But something that we have suggested in our policy options would be to allow for a grace semester if somebody does drop out, to let them come back and still be eligible for the grant.
no, it sounds reasonable to me. Think it through. Members, anyone else? We have Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may have missed this, so I apologize. There's a lot of great information. Thank you so much. The $74 million that are remaining, where is that currently going to? Is that
Yeah, so right now, after all of the lottery-funded scholarships are paid, that $74 million that was remaining last year is transferred into the Tennessee Promise Endowment Fund. And so any changes that would result in increased expenditures on other scholarships would just mean less money going into that endowment.
Follow up?
And on a completely different note, is there a way, or do y'all track where the students live? I'd love to get a breakdown, both by county, and then specifically in Shelby County by zip code or something similar to that. And I don't know if that's something y'all do or not. If you could point me in that direction, that'd be great.
We did track that. I don't believe it's included in our full report, but I'm happy to get that information to you.
Thank you. Well, I think this is a very valuable program, and Tennessee is blessed to have it. 2.4 million eligible Tennesseans. That's like 1/3 of our population. So I think we need to do more marketing, and we need to pull this back up and see if we can fix a few things to help Tennesseans across, because the job market is in high demand right now. We need to put everybody into it. Members, anybody else have? Chairman Sapicki's got a question, and then we'll go to Chairman Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So one of the big things that everybody's talking about here is the Blue Oval City in West Tennessee. Is there a way to draw a circle around that facility where the Blue Oval City is going to go? Let's say 80 miles, which would be roughly, as the crow flies, a 1-hour driving radius, right? And identify how many people in that area are taking advantage of Reconnect, because with that TCAT center we're building there, we're going to have people trained to be able to work specifically at that Ford plant, and to have an idea of how many are already taking advantage of that right now would be a good indication of our ability to meet the needs of that Ford facility with people looking to transition into a new career. Is that possible?
We can certainly take a look by county.
Just in a radius. I mean, if you could just draw a circle 80 miles away, 1-hour driving time, how many people are taking advantage of Reconnect there? Because I think Flora Tiding said something about having to market and recruit more people to take advantage of these programs. So if you could, and then just send it to the chairman.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent idea.
Thank you. You might want to bring it down about 60. I think 80 be in the Mississippi River or West Memphis. All right. Thank you. We got Chairman Baum.
Thank you, Chairman White. I have a question and a comment. I guess my question is, I wonder why participants are so much more likely to go to community colleges instead of a 4-year college or university.
So under state law, to qualify and participate in the Reconnect program, they have to enroll in an associate degree program. So there are only 2 public universities right now, Austin P and TSU, and the new UT Southern, actually, so make that 3 that offer an associate degree program. So there are only, there are limited universities that offer associate degrees. There are some private universities that also offer associate degree programs. Another reason could be that the cost of tuition and mandatory fees is more at a four-year institution, and the grant will only pay the equivalent of what it would cost for that student to go to a community college. So if they go to a community college, it's going to cover their full cost of tuition and mandatory fees. If they go to a public or private university, it's only going to cover a portion.
Okay, thank you for that information. And I guess I have a comment for maybe something that might be a possible explanation or contributing factor why the enrollment in Tennessee Reconnect is going down. I'm wondering if maybe there was initially a population of adults eligible for the program. And then the program was offered, and in the first year, the adults who were inclined to get involved did so. And then by the second year, the ones who were most inclined to get involved with Tennessee Reconnect had already done so, left fewer people in the second year to enroll and even fewer in the third year. The supply of students, potential students who might be interested in an associate's degree that might be continuing, kind of perpetual, the supply of students who might be interested in this kind of support for a community college might be being diverted to the Tennessee Promise program, so that this existing sample or pool of adults who would be interested in Tennessee Reconnect, the ones who are interested have by now begun to participate in the program, and the supply line of students that would otherwise become these adults who are interested in financial assistance to get an associate's degree, they're not replacing these adults in this population because they're taking Tennessee Promise and are getting an associate's degree through that program.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we attribute that decline to. And also the first year, any adult student who was already enrolled in an eligible institution, an eligible program of study, they would have been captured in that first cohort as well. So that's definitely an attributing factor.
Well, thank you very much. Don't have anybody else on the list, but as usual, OREA is so valuable to the General Assembly for this research. I'm going to take your information and get with TBR and THEC and go over this. I think we need to look at some things to boost this back up, some changes. So thank you all for that, and then we'll be calling on you. Members, anyone else have any comments of our guest? Seeing none, thank you all so very much. Appreciate it. Members, do we have a motion to adjourn? We're adjourned. Thank you.